Again, Super Talk Mississippi. Hey, how are you? The JT Show as we get ready for a busy week. The week of, this is the week that's, let's just say sometimes there's not a lot of progress to get done, but there's a lot of progress that's going to get done this week on the JT Show because 2 days we'll be with you Wednesday and Friday at Carter Jewelers. Great Christmas deals on that special piece of jewelry for him or her. Wednesday and Friday, Carter Jewelers, High Street, downtown Jackson. Also, don't forget, Brother Rogers of the Mississippi Department of Archives and History about some cool things here in Mississippi during the Christmas season. That will be today with good things with Rebecca Turner coming up from 2 to 3. But without further ado, we have for you the state auditor here of the state of Mississippi, Stacey Pickering. Merry Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas, JT. Good to be with you today.
All right, before we get into all this state auditor stuff and everything, my buddy Malcolm Reed's going to be on in an hour. So we're already getting ready for Christmas dinner. Okay,
It is on the way.
So what is the traditional Pickering Christmas dinner? What do y'all do? You do something special on Christmas Eve and
Christmas
or Christmas
Eve,
Day?
we leave the Christmas Eve service at First Baptist, and all the cousins and everybody comes over to our house. We'll have a big soup and salad, sandwich, dessert, a little open house for the family, and the kids are all excited because Santa Claus is coming.
Sure.
And then Christmas morning, we do a big brunch at our house, just our family, and I can promise you there's probably not a thing in the world on that menu that's healthy or good for you. It's just a good time with the kids around the table, and my wife does a great job with the breakfast casseroles and cheese grits, and bought some bacon out there, and it's just a good morning, just a good time with the family.
So do y'all do a traditional Christmas dinner, or is it just really the brunch and that's pretty much
Brunch we'll do.
the day?
That's kind of it for the day. We kind of graze through the day. This year, I've got a brother that's off in the Army, and then we're scattered, so we'll get together midweek next week, and then we'll do the turkeys.
Do it all over again.
All that, the dressing, the turkey, all that'll happen.
Well, we've placed a moratorium on turkey and dressing at our house this
Oh,
year.
no, sir.
We had
The smoker will be fired up.
We had enough of it for Thanksgiving. We're doing beef. It's what's for Christmas dinner this year.
You know what? I'm with
I'm
you.
gonna do a whole tenderloin. We're gonna do that and some salmon. So,
That'll be fun.
yeah. Well, what brings you in today? I know you've dug up some serious financial issues for several hospitals around the state. Some of these rural hospitals. I think it's 6 of them, isn't it, Stacey?
Well, there's 6 on the watch list. We looked at all 19 publicly owned rural hospitals. We did this report about 3 years ago, and it was about time to do an update, to take a look and say how have things changed since we first published this report. And at that time, we only had 4 hospitals on the watch list. All 4 now have either been sold or taken over by a management company, JT. It tells us the data we're looking at is spot on, and it's a great way to help the decision makers at the local level, at the legislative level at Jackson, as well as our congressional leaders take a look and see what needs to be done and what steps they can do to make sure our rural communities in Mississippi have good access to health care.
Well, you look at this, and of course we all saw the big the big election that was in Starkville over the hospital up there.
Yeah,
October County
They
Hospital.
did. October County had a big vote whether to sell their hospital or not. And you're dealing with that issue. It's not just a issue of ownership or management. It's what services are going to be provided there at that hospital. What kind of the Medical Association put out a report last week, totally unrelated to ours, that says this is what the economic impact of a doctor is. This is how much they impact that local community. And so for like Octobaha County, my own town of Laurel, where South Central Regional Medical Center is, every one of those doctors, they have to have nurses, technicians. They've got people working the billing in the back. It's an economic driver. And then when companies are looking to locate, like in the Golden Triangle, Yokohama, one of the things that they looked at was, what is the healthcare going to be like for our employees and our management, and as well as the schools and education. So this is one of the big economic drivers, as well as an economic development tool that we need to be honest in taking a look at, as well as access to health care. If we're going to be one of the most obese states in the nation, one of the states that has health care issues, then that we've got to look at our local community-owned hospitals and what kind of access they have. This year we've got 6 that are on the watch list that have financial issues that needs to be addressed or at least be aware of.
What's the answer?
I don't know that there's one answer. Each hospital is so different, each community, because we look at 4 key things. We look at their profitability, we look at how much cash they have on hand that they can leverage, we look at their debt service, as well as the age of their facilities. And each hospital is going to be a little different as those things go. And then you look at their community. Is there room to grow their revenue and to grow? Are they having to compete with other for-profit hospitals or other hospitals in the area. So all of those factors go into access to health care. We're not actually putting out saying these are the actual solutions. I know Senator Cochran's staff put out a press release, I think Friday or maybe this morning, that stipulates where they've got a federal program helping some of the Delta hospitals. One from Mississippi Delta was Tippah County in that program, I can remember on that report, and they referenced our report. So that tells me already policymakers are taking a look at what we're publishing out of the auditor's office. They're taking actions to help shore up access to health care in Mississippi for our poor and most vulnerable.
When originally, the county hospital system in Mississippi, wasn't it originally that every county had a hospital?
Well, the most of them, we have 113 hospitals in Mississippi right now. The thing is, most of those have gone either nonprofit or for-profit hospitals. Merit Health Systems in Mississippi is a for-profit example. Then you've got the Baptist and St. Dominic's here in Jackson that are nonprofit facilities, and they've expanded and bought out. You've got Baptist Memorial and Methodist have merged. The healthcare system in Mississippi, as well as across the nation, is changing. What we're trying to address out of the auditor's office are those publicly owned hospitals in rural settings to make sure the policymakers at the local level, the state, and the federal know exactly the facts as they relate to the financial health of those institutions.
And obviously, we look at what's going on. I mean, the Republicans are on the brink of possibly repealing the Obamacare mandate.
Once again, that issue's hot in front center. Well, it's tied to the tax reform bill.
It is that, and to me, I just don't see the whole hospital system getting any better before it gets worse.
Well, I think we're going to continue to see mergers. We're going to continue to see hospitals taken over by management companies, and when that happens, you're going to start, one of the key ways, their biggest expense, like everybody else, is personnel. And so the way you cut your expenses is reducing your personnel costs. And that's going to affect the local incomes and the tax base in those local communities. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all answer. And the ripple effect of the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and whether it gets repealed or not, all of those factors is going to, in Medicaid reimbursement, are going to influence the health and stability of our locally publicly owned hospitals.
We're visiting here with Stacey Pickering, your state auditor here, as we talk to him about what is going on with our rural hospital system and the fact that we're having some issues now, and he's uncovered these issues that we continue to look at. Is there a possibility these hospitals could end up closing? What's the outcome here if they don't get it changed? Is it a merger, or is it the possibility that they just go away?
Well, hopefully we'll not see any of these just go away. Hopefully somebody will come in and there'll be a merger, there'll be a sale or a management company that will come in and be contracted with at least to keep emergency care operations. And that's happened in some of our smaller, more rural communities already. Their publicly owned rural hospital has shut down as a hospital, but it is now a swing bed unit for rehab as well as an ER, and that kind of tends what it is, and then they ship the patients off. Well, what happens in those communities, your specialists, your cardiologists, your neurologists, your GIs, those doctors leave that community and go to where those jobs are at a larger medical facility. And you, again, get back to primary care physicians there locally. You lose some of that economic drivers, that tax base that's generated in those incomes, the purchasing power in those communities. It changes our local communities, not just access to health care.
We're visiting here with Stacey Pickering, your state auditor. I want to continue with you since you came in. I want to kind of get an update of where we are with the Mississippi education contracts. I know you blew the whistle back on this back in the fall. And really hammered the Mississippi Department of Education over contracts which they deservedly needed.
They needed.
I want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, you even called it a culture of obstruction. I'd like to finish up with that, talk to you about that, and we can continue with anything else you got. I know also you got, I believe, another bust, and guess what county, Rhino? You'll never guess. Alcorn County. Another bust in Alcorn County. We can talk about that too. As it's coming up, the JT Show. We continue here with Stacey Pickering, your state auditor here, and we'll visit with him. Malcolm Reed on the way at 12 o'clock. We're doing it 1 week away from Christmas, so we can help you get that menu set just right for your Christmas dinner coming up. Also coming up, the JT Show Wednesday and Friday, Carter Jewelers in downtown Jackson. 2 big days for you to go by and save at front door parking, free gift wrapping, easy in and out, and a great place for you to get something nice for that special someone in your life. That's all coming up right around the corner as we continue here on the Metal Monday, the JT Show, Super Talk Mississippi. Mississippi, hanging in here with you today. Monday, Metal Monday edition, a week away from Christmas. Hard to believe it's here, but it is here, and we're hanging out here today with Stacey Pickering, your state auditor there. And we've been talking about the rural hospitals and the financial health, and it's not too good right now. Hopefully it's going to improve. Also, you have the Mississippi Internal Audit Act. Now, tell me about, turn that on, Rhino. Tell me about that real quick. I know it's something that's been on the books, but something that we necessarily, or not necessarily, have followed up through with.
Yeah, it's a report we released last week that we surveyed about 18 to 20 state agencies. State law in 2003 said had to have an internal auditor on staff that's hired by their agency to be independent, to look for efficiencies and waste and better management of our tax dollars. But the legislature had a phrase back in '03 that said only they can pay for it out of specified funds. And the legislature's never specified funding for internal auditors, and because of that, less than half of the agencies specified in law have ever hired an internal auditor. And so when we, go figure. And so when it goes to, how we manage our money.
That's almost hilarious.
Well, yeah, again, who do you blame? The legislature or the agency heads? The agencies are saying, well, the law says it's got to be specified. Half of them went ahead and hired an internal auditor, but even half of those auditors don't meet the qualifications of the law. So it sounds good. I can go to a Rotary Club speech and say, we passed a law requiring state internal auditors in all state agencies, but we didn't fund it.
Right.
And so there's no consequence for not doing it. And so we published the report last week calling on the legislature either fund it or remove that qualification and require state agencies out of existing funds to hire an internal auditor to follow the law that's qualified to better manage our tax dollars. And that's really what we boils down to is, don't expect what you're not inspecting. And we as a state need to be inspecting every state agency. If they don't want to do it, then give us the authority and the money for us to hire those people under our authority at the auditor's office, and we'll go do that job.
Can I ask this question, and I know this almost, why would we have to hire outside people to do that? Why couldn't we just do it? Why couldn't your office just go in and do that?
Well, it's a matter of staffing. We're responsible for doing the single audit, which is all the federal money, as well as the comprehensive annual financial report for the state. And that's what I've got about 60 to 70 accountants and CPAs working on year-round. We can do a little compliance work on smaller agencies throughout the year, but if we really want good accountability and transparency, it costs money to have that staff out there, and we can. And that's one of the solutions. We said either us or DFA can do that staff, but you've got to give us the money to hire the additional people.
How about that?
I mean, it just boils down that simple. It's not a big investment. An agency like ours, we're very thin, we're very inexpensive to go do the work, but it just takes people. And right now, I've already got over half my staff doing the CAFR and the single audit. The other half does investigations when money and allegations are made of money being stolen or embezzled. As you talked about up in Alcorn County, where we had Mr. Usry plead guilty and have a sentencing this past week, being a part of that whole heavy equipment scam that was going on in Alcorn County a year and a half ago.
I was going to say, this goes all the way back to the corruption investigation that led to the criminal charges against 5 Alcorn County vendors, a former county purchasing agent, and a supervisor and the former sheriff.
Exactly. I mean, we were in the jail.
So this is just part of the fallout of
This
all
is
that.
part of the fallout. We're still mopping up that mess that was in Alcorn County going on of people getting kickbacks, submitting falsified invoices, inflated invoices.
Which is what this guy was doing.
That's what he was doing. He was part of that with a supervisor. They were claiming to rent heavy equipment. One of my favorites in this story, and I show the video, the picture of it at Rotary Clubs, it's a bulldozer, a big yellow bulldozer that they had rented for a couple of years with no engine in it.
Yeah.
Literally sitting out in the field with blackberry vine and bushes growing up inside of it. And they're splitting the rental cost in the form of a kickback. And that's the kind of job they were doing.
What were they using that dozer for? Just to harvest blackberries?
Harvest blackberries, because it sure didn't have an engine in it. And, but they were renting it, and they were taking what they were charging the county in rent and splitting it between the vendor and the supervisor.
Stacey, I go back to the 87 pretense thing. I know it predates you a lot, but it just,
I remember those days.
Well, it just shows you nothing's changed.
People are people, and I serve as a chaplain in the Air Force, and at the end of the day, it's sin. We're all born with it, and when it comes to selfishness and greed, some people just can't help themselves.
Well, I imagine if you went back, you could probably get just as many arrests in 2017 as you did back in 87 if you went back and you looked at all of these counties and what happens with these supervisors. And it's just the amount of money, especially when it comes to heavy equipment and things like that. There's money that, it's so much money involved that it's easy to try to get away with. But
It's easy to try. You can't cover it up forever. It's gonna catch
Right.
up with you. And you take a look, one of the things we did coming out of Operation Pretense, we tried to go to the unit system where you had a county administrator. You had better, or more professional staff in place than the beat system. And some of my good friends, even my own county, is still on the beat system. But we have more public corruption cases in beat systems than we do in unit systems in Mississippi. We've got the facts that prove it out. That's where most of our public corruption comes from, because it is so diverse and there's so much money between beat, instead of being centrally located under a professional county administrator and all eyes looking there. The board turns from fixing right-of-ways and roads and bridges to being more of administrative, and they got eyes on the taxpayer dollars. The unit system is more efficient and more effective way to manage our tax dollars, and it's more accountable.
no doubt about that. Real quick, before we let you get out of here, I know you blew the whistle on the Mississippi Department of Education and just the questionable contracts. Really let them have it. Called it a culture of obstruction. As you continue to probe there, obviously you're still digging around and looking, huh?
We're still there. I've met with some of the senior leadership, including Superintendent Wright for the first time last month, but we're still digging in there. We have the Inspector General from the U.S. Department of Education is very much involved in evaluating how they're spending that money, where that money's going, who's part of those contracts, who approved them. The State Board of Education has got some questions they're going to have to answer as we move into 2018 as how the taxpayer money at Department of Education has been misspent. And I said it then when we blew the whistle, and we're still saying it now. If we discover where 1 red cent has been misappropriated and kept from going to our teachers and our students in the classroom and has been wasted in these extravagant contracts, those individuals are going to be held accountable. That's not too much to ask. The children are the most important things becoming our next generation of leadership. And we've got to make sure that we're protecting them and getting the money there and not wasting it along the way.
Well, and it was just, it's crazy. So this, I guess you could say we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg on this right now.
There's a lot of things over there when it comes to travel, when it comes to contracts that are out there. Already we've seen one of the senior leadership have already left and resigned since we started looking into this, which that raises red flags. Once we start looking into an agency like Department of Education and number 2, number 3 person decides it's time to resign and get away, what are we running from and what do they not want to be held accountable for?
So this is an ongoing deal. You might want to keep popcorn ready is what you're trying to tell me.
As Paul Harvey used to say, stand by for news.
Stand by for news. Well, I hope your family and everyone has a wonderful Christmas. I know you still got kids at the house.
Oh, we do, man. All the college kids came home.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. It's fun.
Sure. And to get I got kids at the house too, or at least one of them. And as you said, it is that time of year. It's hard to believe that it's here.
Golly, it's flown by and it's hard to believe it's just a week away.
You been in the woods at all?
The kids have been in the woods. I have been working the grills and take care of family, but I'm hoping a little of this cold weather comes back in next week and looking forward to.
I think your wish is going to be granted.
I'm excited, looking
Not
forward to
talking about cold weather. They're talking about cold weather next week.
And I'm all ready for it, because if those little deer will start moving a little bit, getting back out in the food plots and moving through some of the bottomland on the Leaf River, I'll be a happy guy.
Well, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and I appreciate you as always coming in to update and to let people know that there are that we do have a watchdog looking out for our taxpayer dollars, and we're going to make sure that it's accountable. It's going to be very interesting to watch this Mississippi Department of Education and how this goes forward. When we learn more and if we turn over some more, there is a possibility of prosecution in this too, if it's necessary, right?
Well, on that side, we don't comment on ongoing investigations.
I got you. Had to ask those.
I appreciate the ask, but yeah, we let the investigation
You
stand
know
on
me,
its own.
I'm not scared to ask, but I always have to do that. I have to do that just to make sure. Again, Stacey, thank you for being here. Stacey Pickering, your state auditor, visiting with us, and we'll talk to you after the first of the year. Merry Christmas to you and your family, and
Merry Christmas,
everybody and
JJ.
your staff. Thank you very much.
And Merry Christmas to you and the entire Super Talk family.
Well, we're going to get it done. Malcolm Reed coming up here for you in about 30 minutes. We're going to talk to him what to put on that smoker for the holidays. He's got some wonderful ideas. We're going to be visiting with him. Also, we can talk to you, some open lines till now, or until then. 888-808-8637, or you can text us 601-879-4395. And you can also hit us up on Twitter at The JT Show. It's just that simple for you to be a part of it here today. News Mississippi coming up. And what else can we get off into, Rhino? Oh, P. Diddy wants to buy a football team. Yeah, and the first person he wants to sign is, you know who, Colin Kaepernick. Yeah, that's a way to build a franchise right there, isn't it? You got the JT Show, Super Talk Mississippi, the Metal Monday edition. We're hanging out with you here on Super Talk Mississippi.